Have you ever walked into a room and felt the weight of what nobody's saying? The tension crackling between two people who insist everything's fine. The exhaustion radiating from someone's forced smile. The lie hiding behind polite conversation. You try to ignore it, but your mind catalogs details others miss. The micro-expression that lasted half a second. The tremor in someone's voice. The way energy shifted when certain names came up. What if this sight isn't only a gift, it can also be a curse? Carl Jung warned that for a rare minority, this clarity doesn't make life easier, it makes it unbearable. You become a mirror reflecting truths people aren't ready to face. And mirrors, Jung discovered, have a way of getting broken. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Jung considered certain types of perception psychologically dangerous. How they either destroy you or transform you into something the world desperately needs. The patient who saw too much. In 1913, during Jung's own psychological crisis, a patient arrived at his Zurich practice. Jung noted a differentiated, intuitive kind of perception, clinical language that barely captured her disturbing condition. She could walk into any gathering and immediately sense the psychological atmosphere. Who was lying about their marriage? Who was drowning in secret despair? Who harbored resentments they'd never voice? She couldn't engage in small talk because she saw through every social facade. Her presence disrupted what Jung described as unconscious agreements that keep groups functioning. But here's what made Jung's observations so unsettling. When checked, her perceptions were often accurate. This wasn't mental illness. This was consciousness so advanced, it had become socially lethal. Jung realized he wasn't treating pathology. He was documenting what happens when the unconscious becomes too conscious. Her gift was precision. Her curse was that nobody wanted to be seen that clearly. Accuracy didn't protect her. It made her dangerous to the groups she entered. The nature of superior perception. Jung observed that a rare minority possessed what he called superior perception, a pattern-level clarity about hidden motives, unspoken tensions, and psychological atmospheres. You see the depression masked by confident presentations. You feel the desperation beneath success stories. You sense the collective agreements to ignore certain truths that keep families and organizations functioning. The problem isn't your perception. It's what happens when reality gets reflected back. Jung observed that irritation can be a doorway to self-understanding. But most people don't want understanding. They want their illusions preserved. When you reflect someone's shadow, their rejected unconscious parts, they rarely thank you for the insight. Instead, they defend, they deny, they break the glass. Jung observed that individuals with clear perception become repositories for what groups cannot consciously acknowledge about themselves. That reaction sets up a cycle that breaks you. The three dangers. Jung identified 3 ways superior perception becomes psychologically lethal. Disruption. Your perception threatens the unconscious agreements holding groups together. Every family has unspoken rules about what gets acknowledged. Every workplace has collective blind spots. Your presence alone destabilizes these agreements because you can't pretend not to see what's obvious to you. Isolation. Jung called this the problem of superior function, when your greatest strength becomes your greatest burden. It can feel like you live in a different reality, awake in a room built for sleep. Dissolution. Jung used Levi Bruhl's term, participation mystique, to describe what happens when you absorb others' unconscious content so completely that you lose contact with your own authentic self. Your psychological boundaries dissolve. You become flooded with external material until you can't distinguish between what's yours and what you've absorbed. This isn't just social rejection, it's identity erosion. but some relationships can handle your clarity. Finding safe relationships. Not everyone can handle your perception, but some can. 3 indicators of safe others are these. They ask real questions instead of immediately defending. They can admit their own contradictions without shame. They stay emotionally steady when faced with uncomfortable truths. Jung observed 3 types of allies for superior perceivers. Fellow individuated people, those who have done their own psychological work and can recognize authenticity without being threatened by it. Those engaged in inner work, people actively in therapy, spiritual practice, or personal development, who understand the value of psychological insight. Natural containers, individuals who can hold psychological content without being overwhelmed, often those who've weathered significant life challenges. The recognition process requires careful revelation. Start small. Notice their response patterns. Frame insights as offerings, not verdicts. Now, for the taxonomy, which type of perceiver are you? 4 archetypes of perception. Jung identified 4 patterns within superior perception. The feeling intuitive. You don't just see emotional dynamics, you somatize them. Others' anger becomes tension in your body. Their depression becomes your fatigue. Risk. Emotional contagion. The thinking intuitive. You see trajectories before they manifest. Relationship failures, career disasters, personal breakdowns. You spot patterns months early. Risk, fatalism, and cold distance. The sensation intuitive. You detect the physical manifestations of psychological states. Illness before symptoms appear. Stress before it's acknowledged. Risk, hypervigilance that exhausts your system. The pure intuitive. Massive signal intake with limited structure to process it. You perceive everything but struggle to organize what you're receiving coherently. Risk, overwhelm, and shutdown. Which pattern is closest to you? Naming it isn't enough. When you reflect what someone won't face, they attack the mirror. That's the scapegoat mechanism, and it's probably breaking you. The scapegoat mechanism. When you reflect someone's shadow, they often accuse you of causing the very problem you noticed. You predict the workplace blow-up, then get blamed for creating negativity. You sense relationship tension, then get accused of manufacturing drama. You notice someone's drinking pattern, then get labeled judgmental. Jung observed that the bearer of superior perception becomes a repository for what a group won't acknowledge. You become the designated problem because you expose what others unconsciously maintain. 3 tells you're the mirror. You leave gatherings exhausted despite saying little. People call you intense when you were calm. Your predicted problems happen right on schedule. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Groups maintain stability through shared blindness. Your sight threatens that stability. These attacks aren't random, they defend the status quo. But integration is possible. The path to integration. Phase 1. Recognition and differentiation. Practice daily solitude, even 5 minutes of complete silence. Ask yourself this: what's mine, and what did I absorb? Notice the difference between your authentic emotional state and what you've unconsciously collected from others. Label the foreign material and consciously release it. Phase 2. Shadow integration. Accept that every trait you spot in others exists as potential in you. When someone's behavior triggers strong judgment, ask, where do I do this too? This isn't about becoming bad, it's about becoming whole. Jung observed that we often see most clearly in others what we've repressed in ourselves. Phase 3. Conscious participation. Engage others' psychological material without merging with it. Learn to hold insights lightly. Offer perceptions as possibilities, not pronouncements. Language patterns that maintain boundaries. I may be wrong. Does any part land? This might be off, but I'm sensing. Would it be useful if I shared an observation? Keep ownership with the other person. Your job is to reflect, not to fix. The integration mantra is simple. See clearly, hold lightly, stay yourself. Practice this in low-stakes situations first. Build your capacity to engage without absorbing. Develop what Jung called psychological containers, the ability to temporarily hold others' content while maintaining awareness that it's not yours. Integration isn't a permanent achievement, it's ongoing practice. Expect relapses under stress. History shows us both paths, destruction and transformation. Historical examples. First, Nietzsche, the unintegrated seer. Nietzsche possessed extraordinary insight into human nature, but remained identified with his superior function. He saw through religious and social facades with devastating clarity, but wielded perception as a weapon against society. His isolation and eventual breakdown showed what happens when superior perception remains unintegrated. Next, Meister Eckhart, successful integration. The medieval mystic possessed mystical intuition, the ability to perceive spiritual and psychological realities others couldn't access. But Eckhart channeled his insights into compassionate service. He transformed superior perception into wisdom that could nourish others without overwhelming them. His success came from conscious humility. Finally, Jung's own journey. Jung documented his own struggle with overwhelming perception during his confrontation with the unconscious from 1913 to 1919. His superior perception of unconscious contents nearly destroyed him until he learned conscious integration. His breakthrough was this: the perceptions weren't pathology. They signaled a shift in consciousness. The difference between these paths lies in how you relate to the gift. The critical choice. Superior perception either isolates or transforms. The destruction pathway leads to psychological isolation, identity dissolution, chronic overwhelm, and eventual withdrawal from human engagement. The transformation pathway leads to what Jung called becoming a bridge between conscious and unconscious, helping others integrate what they cannot yet see. 4 common pitfalls derail integration. First, inflation, the prophet complex. Second, withdrawal, superiority disguised as wisdom. Third, helper identity, existing only as the fixer. Fourth, overwhelm return, stress dissolves boundaries. Maintenance requires daily solitude for boundary restoration, selective engagement based on current capacity, peers for reality checking and support, creative expression to metabolize excess perceptual input. The question isn't whether you'll struggle with these pitfalls, it's whether you'll recognize them quickly enough to course correct. Your role extends beyond personal healing. The evolutionary purpose. Jung observed that individuals with superior perception often feel collective problems before they become obvious to the majority. You're not meant to carry the world's pain. You're meant to metabolize what you perceive and offer it wisely. Think of yourself as an early warning system for psychological weather patterns. You feel the storms before they hit. Your job isn't to prevent every storm, but to develop skills to navigate them consciously. Jung noted that consciousness evolution often begins with individuals who can perceive what collective awareness isn't ready to integrate. Your clarity serves the future, not necessarily the present. Personal symptoms often mirror cultural pathologies that need attention. Personal work becomes cultural work. Your perception isn't the burden, your unconscious relationship to it is. The exhaustion comes not from seeing clearly, but from fighting what you see or absorbing what isn't yours. The path forward. Don't see less. Learn to hold what you see without drowning. Develop the containers, build the boundaries, find your people, practice the integration. Your clarity is needed, but it's needed consciously, skillfully, with hard-won wisdom that transforms dangerous perception into cultural medicine. Which archetype are you? Feeling, thinking, sensation, or pure? Share in the comments. Your journey connects with others walking the same path. The mirror doesn't have to break. It just needs to learn how to reflect without absorbing. Subscribe for psychological insights that honor your depth.